This one is interesting, and it probably, like, it's in relationship advice, but it's not about that kind of relationship. Okay. These are what we lost. How do I, female 24, confront my friend, male 23, about a trauma story that he is partially making up? So I have a childhood friend who I love dearly, but he will tell this story a lot when discussing the topic of body image and how society looks at overweight people. Quote, when I was a preteen, I was depressed and stopped eating regularly for a few months. I lost over 50 pounds and people noticed immediately. I had always been overweight, so everyone would give me compliments and tell me that I look great without the extra weight. No one was ever worried about me. They didn't care about the weight I lost or how I lost the weight. They just cared that I looked skinnier. They would rather see me be slim and unhealthy than I be healthy while overweight. Now, I don't want to attack him in any way, but he always leaves out a lot of the story just to prove a point or to relate to other people. Remember this time in his life very clearly, and absolutely no one was under the impression that he lost weight in an unhealthy way. Yes, he was overweight, but he was also a pretty active kid. We were part of the same sports groups, and he would come to my house to swim a lot. People literally asked him what he did differently. It was only a few times, but it still happened. And he would just say he was exercising more. I was, and still am, his best friend. I didn't even know he wasn't eating. We would discuss the topic of depression regularly and try to help each other, but not once did he mention that he wasn't eating. He would decline food on occasion, but that was normal because he's allergic to pretty much everything, so no one thought anything of it. I understand him being upset with his family, since obviously the people he lived with should have noticed something was up, but he literally lied to everyone else so they wouldn't worry about him, and now he's telling trauma stories about how no one worried about him. I don't know if I should confront him or even have a conversation about it. I don't know if he's lying on purpose or if this is really how he remembers it. I really don't want to upset him, but I've wanted to talk to him about this for a while now, and I still don't know if I should. Should you? Well, should implies a directionality. It's a goal-based word. If you want this, you should do that. Should you mention it? Well, it's very likely to cause an altercation if you do. This person remembers things that way, and even if they don't, by having told it that way this many times, they've probably either convinced themselves or admitting that it didn't happen that way would cause so much cognitive dissonance because of the framework that they've set up. They're going to defend that point of view as vehemently as if it did happen and you are lying. Or they're a total liar and they're going to defend this as though it did happen and you're the liar. There's no good way to tell someone they're lying. Even when you catch someone in a lie, they usually just lie. Oh no, I swear I'm not lying. Really? We have the evidence here. Well, but I didn't, right? I mean, like, if they just continue to retreat, there's never any winning against that kind of thing. So if the goal is to put stress on your friendship, yeah, you should confront them. I mean, if the goal is to hold someone accountable to your version of the truth, yeah, you should confront them. Maybe you could talk to a few other people and see if there's anyone else who agrees with your line of thinking. In which case, it could be a whole group approaching someone, saying, we believe that we have the better version of the truth than you do, and we want you to be convinced of it so that, what? So that you won't go around telling people how upset it made you, that no one asked you what you felt. Like, there's this really interesting thing that people do not want someone to have ill-gotten sympathy. People really don't like that. If you do something fucked up, that is almost better than lying in order to get sympathy. People really, really, really hate that. But like, who's the victim here? You could say that it's the friends and family that he is blaming. I'm going back to the quote here. No one was worried about me. They didn't care how I lost the weight. They just cared that I looked skinnier. What is this person trying to communicate? That they are upset about the incredibly awful standards of beauty that we have that do that. Oh yeah, very much so. They'll be like, oh yeah, now you're skinny, now you're fuckable, now your opinion matters. How'd you get skinny? Cocaine? It's a hell of a drug, man. You off the stuff now that you're skinny? Because now that you're skinny, we can hold you accountable. The skinny people law. Like, it's really, 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 really fucked up. So I can see why the person is upset, you know. They bent themselves over backwards to conform to a beauty standard, and they don't like that it made people happy. Ugh, that's awful. It's like if you compromise who you are for your boss and start, you know, sucking dick, and they just love it and they treat you better for it. Fuck you people. Fuck all of you people. And I get that rage. I really do. You know, but if they were more targeted, if they were saying, you know, you're bad because you didn't care, that I would be more concerned with. Them just saying it really upset me that no one was worried sounds like they're really just trying to convey the whole narrative in an emotional sense. So it may not be literal, and that's really hard for people. Obviously, people say if it's not literal, then it's not the truth. But like, conveying emotional intent is way more contextual than people ever like to admit. And the words that are written on paper can be read 50 different ways, you know, after you've read it those 50 different ways, I can tell you something about the author that makes you then completely disagree with every way that you just read that phrase. So when you start to get into that kind of murky water, I feel like I started off with this saying, you're served so much better by thinking in terms of should directionality. So if I want this thing, I should do that. And if you lay out your goals of what you really want, then the answers become obvious. You either want to confront this person because you need to hold them to a certain standard that you hold yourself to. Otherwise, why am I doing this to myself and holding myself to this standard when I could just be lying to everybody, right? So they have to be held accountable. Otherwise, the things that you do to yourself won't make sense. Or, I don't know, you just let it go, I guess, and that pisses you off and then you feel bad. I mean, if you are around someone who has this behavioral pattern, that's not that great. And they probably do need some help because, you know, obviously the reasons why they did that action of not eating in the first place are coming from a really negative place. And I feel like maybe the best goal would be to try and look at it in terms of, I have a friend who's really upset about a thing, and that makes me bummed, and I don't want them to be. So I'm trying to figure out how to get them to not be so upset about that thing. And that thing is the way they felt about something they did. It may not have really happened that way, but they felt this way about it, and that is what's upsetting them. If you work from that angle to try and make them into a happier person, you're going to be served a lot better than wondering if you should or shouldn't confront them about the lie, about the way they felt about a thing they did. Like, it's so many layers removed from reality that it just does not matter anymore if it's truth or not. The only bits left that matter are what you want to do with this story. So that's my 2 cents on that one. I just thought it was an interesting, kind of complicated one that I could kind of really sink my teeth into for a second.